Welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. And welcome to Tuesday, people. Yes, it's Tuesday, one day closer to Wednesday, that desert of the middle of the week. But don't worry about all that. Remember to try and look for the silver lining. Remember to try and find the positive side of anything negative. Like the fact that we're still only on Tuesday, and that means that we're closer to Wednesday than we are to Friday. That's a tough one, isn't it? Yes, but hang on, let me think. Well, it's true that this is only Tuesday, and that automatically means that we're closer to Wednesday, the desert we always find in the middle of the week, than we are to Friday. But it also means that we're approaching the middle of the standard working week, and that in turn means that we're not particularly close to our favorite day of the week, Friday. Okay, now all of this is true, but we're looking for the silver lining, and there must be one there somewhere. Well, let's look at it this way. Well, we're moving forwards, aren't we? Yes, that's right. We're in a state of perpetual motion, continually moving and, most importantly, continually studying. So the fact that we're only at the start of the week means that we've got more and more time to learn more and more. And that's positive, obviously. So we found the silver lining, and now it's time to get stuck in to today's lesson. Let's go. All right, now we have to check a few things that are connected to Eddie Finn, don't we? We saw that interview that Eddie had with the policeman, and we know that Eddie was given a caution. The police cautioned Eddie. But there are still a couple of items of vocabulary that I think we should check, just to make sure that everyone knows everything that we should know. So, let's have a look at some of that vocabulary again. All right, well, for one thing, the policeman used the word till, which is just an informal way of saying until. But you all worked that out already, didn't you? Now, what does until mean? Well, we all know that one too, don't we? Until means up to a certain point in time. So, you know that at work you have until, 5 o'clock to finish the report that your boss needs. So when we hear the word till, we know that it's the same as until, but it's more informal, less formal. If you're having a test at school, the teacher might say something like, "You've got 45 minutes to finish the test. It's 10 o'clock now, so you've got until 10:45 to finish the test." Equally, the teacher might say, "You've got 45 minutes to finish the test. It's 10 o'clock now, so you've got till 10:45 to finish the test." See, there's no difference in meaning. Till is just less formal. All right, now, what else was there that we need to look at? Well, there wasn't anything else really, was there? I mean, the policeman was very clear. He delivered a message to Eddie which was clear. Eddie has been cautioned, and now there is a police file on Eddie, a folder with information about Eddie. What his full name is, when he was born, what his parents' names are, where he lives, things like that. And most importantly for the police, why they know who he is. The police don't have any information on you unless you did something which caught their attention. If the police don't know who you are because you haven't done anything wrong and you've never been in trouble with the police, then that means that the police don't have a file on you. If, on the other hand, you got into trouble with the police, then, as we saw with Eddie, the police caution you and write information down about you in your file. Now this means that the police have a record of who you are and what you did. And, as the policeman mentioned, as he told Eddie, If Eddie gets into trouble again with the police, he won't get off. He won't escape with just a warning. This warning, this caution only happens once. The next time that Eddie gets into trouble with the police, if there is a next time, he won't get a warning, but he'll have to go to court. And, as the policeman told Eddie, if he does something criminal again and gets caught by the police, when he goes to court, the police will tell the court about his record, his file. Now, let's just check a couple of those phrases and then we can move on. So, the first thing we need to look at is the idea of someone turning over a new leaf. Now, this is a phrase which comes from the idea of a page or a leaf in a book. When we normally talk about leaves, the plural of leaf, we're normally talking about the things we see on trees, the green things that you can see on tree branches, the things that fall off in the autumn and which grow again in the spring. These things. Okay, so that's what we normally think of when we think of a leaf. But we also sometimes use the word leaf to talk about a single page in a book, and that's the connection to the phrase. What the phrase means, what it means when we say that someone has turned over a new leaf, or what it means if we say that someone is going to turn over a new leaf, is just what you'd imagine when you turn the leaf of a book. That's right, it's the same idea. Imagine that you're writing in a book. When you turn the page, the next page is blank, isn't it? Yes, and that means that you can start again. This page is blank, it's waiting for you to write on it. So the slate is clean, the page is clean, it's possible for you to make a fresh start. All right, now let's hope that Eddie decides to turn his back on a life of crime. Let's cross our fingers and hope that he decides to turn a new leaf and start the rest of his life by being a good boy. Only time will tell. And it's his decision. We know that, he knows that, and the police know that too. All right, now, something new. Something we haven't seen before. What haven't we looked at recently? Who can think of something that we haven't looked at for a while? Yes, that's right, grammar. We haven't had a look at any new grammar, any really new grammar for ages, have we? Okay, all right, and that's what we're going to do now. But first, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, let's have a brief run through of what we've already seen. So, let's have a quick think about what we've seen in terms of English tenses, shall we? Well, we've seen the present simple tense and the present continuous. We know that we use the present simple for things which are generally true, things which don't change. So, that means that when we're talking, for example, about things like who we are and what our names are, where we live, normal things that don't change, then we use the present simple. I like pizza. My Christian name is Gav. It's short for Gavin. Most shops open at 9 a.m. and close about 5 p.m. The sun doesn't go around the earth. The earth goes round the sun. All right, now, what do we know about using verbs in the present simple? Well, for one thing, we know that we have to be careful with what? Yes, that's right. We have to be careful with the third person singular. This is where we get the spelling changes. When we're talking about the third person singular, when we're talking about he, she, or it, then we normally have to add an S to the end of the verb, don't we? Yes, but sometimes it's not that simple, is it? No. Sometimes we have to add something else before we add the S. If the verb ends in S, then we can't just add an S. That would be silly. That would look daft and it would make the verb very difficult to say. So, what do we do if the verb we're using in our sentence ends in S? Who remembers? Yes, that's right. If we're using a verb which ends in S, like the verb to kiss, for example, we have to add not S, but ES. I kiss the ground. You kiss the ground. But the Pope kisses the ground. Now, the same is also true for some other verbs, isn't it? If the verb we're using ends in S or SH, CH or X, then when we're talking about the third person singular, we have to remember to add ES, not S. All right now, what about the other spelling changes we have to be careful with? Well, what about verbs which end in O? What do we do with these verbs in the present simple when we're talking about the third person singular? Yes, that's right. If the verb ends in an O, like the verb to go, for example, then we do the same thing. Instead of adding an S, we add ES. I go to the supermarket every week. You go to work every day. She goes on holiday every July. All right. But that's not all, is it? No. If the verb ends in Y, we also have to be careful, don't we? But it's not enough to just bung on ES. Not here, not now, not with verbs which end in Y. If the verb we're using ends in consonant plus Y, such as the verb to fly or the verb to try, for example, then when we're making a sentence using the third person singular, we remove the Y and replace it with IES. I'm a pilot. I fly planes for a living. You're a pilot. You fly planes for a living. He's a pilot. He flies planes for a living. But, as we all remember, I'm sure we all remember, if the verb ends in vowel plus Y, then we don't remove the Y and add IES. If the verb ends in vowel plus Y, like the verb to buy or the verb to pay, then we just add S to the end of the verb when we're making a sentence in the present simple with the third person singular. I buy food and drink from the supermarket. You buy a new car every few years. She buys champagne every week. All right, what else? Well, we also remember that there are irregular verbs which are just, well, mad. These verbs have no logic, so we can't look at the letters at the end of the word and decide what we have to do to the ending when we're making a sentence using the third person singular. No. These verbs are irregular. That is, they're not regular. With these verbs, the only thing we can do is learn how they change and then remember what to do when we're using them with the third person singular. So with the verb to have or the verb to be, we know that it's not just as simple as adding S or ES. With the verb to have, we know that the third person singular form is has, not have. And with the verb to be, we know that there are two areas where we have to watch out. For a start, the first person singular form is different to all the other forms. I am. And the third person singular form is different too. He, she, and it is. Okay, so that's a brief run through of some of the things we already know about the present simple tense. And let's not forget, things change when we want to ask questions and make negative statements in the present simple. You all remember what we have to do, don't you? If we want to make the present simple negative, we have to use an auxiliary verb, a helping verb, to make it possible. Now, with the present simple negative, we use the auxiliary verb to do. So, when we want to make a negative sentence in the present simple, we start, as normal, with the subject. I, you, Chief Mangasuta Buthelezi, or whoever else. Then instead of following the subject with the verb, we follow the subject with the auxiliary verb, the verb to do. With that word we always see when we're talking about negatives in English. Yes, chimpanzee! No, 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 not chimpanzee. The word we always see when we're talking about the negative in English is not. You all know that. All right, that's enough for now. That damn chimp, always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Oh well, never mind. Okay, people, we'll pick up on this tomorrow. We'll run through what we already know and then we'll start something new. All right, have a coffee, take the parrot for a walk, give the dog some milk and speak to the cat in Esperanto. That should confuse them all. I'll see you all tomorrow. See you later. Bye.